Hi, and welcome back to your challenge. Today is day 6 of your first week. Congratulations. Today we are doing our deep front line and our arm lines in mobility. And what's so fun about this part of the challenge is that by now you've maybe started to notice how the different lines interact with each other, that the deep front line can be accessed through some similar movements as our superficial front line, for instance. And we start to notice how all of these different fascial lines begin to work together. So for today's practice, you will need a block. Go ahead and make sure that you grab that. And we will begin in tabletop position. So just like we began our superficial back line, we're going to work a little bit on our transverse abdominal muscle. And I want you to think about this muscle kind of like a tube that's wrapping around your torso today. And so as we inhale, kind of let that tube become a little bit larger in diameter. Inhaling not only your belly down, but also expanding through your back, through your ribs. And then as you exhale, squeezing that tube in towards your spine, letting it lengthen and become thinner in diameter. Inhaling, rounding out, getting bigger. Exhaling, lengthening, squeezing in. A few more breaths like this. So you'll notice that we're focused less on that cat pose spine today and more on creating this tube-like structure through our body. One more breath like that. We'll be carrying this breath throughout class today. And relax, sit up, and come all the way to standing. So our deep front line begins with our iliopsoas muscle, and your iliopsoas muscle runs down into the tops of your thighs, all the way up, and connects at the bottom of your rib cage. So our deep front really is not just the abdominal core, it's the abdominal core, the deep abdominal core muscles like that transverse abdomen, all the way down into the tops of the legs. And this deep front is what creates all of the stability in our body. I know that the functional lines all of the lines work to create more stability in your body, but the deep front is really what holds your spine in place. It holds all of your organs in place. So stability and mobility of that deep front line affects how you move through your entire body. Our arm lines run up and down our arms. There's actually 4 arm lines. There's deep arm lines and superficial arm lines, but we're working all of them together today. A nice combination of your arm lines and your deep front lines happens because when we work our arm lines, we're often working our deep front line as well. So the first movement we're going to do is bring your arms straight forward, palms face down. And then think about contracting through your deep front line. Really contract your hips back. Think about tucking your tailbone under, contracting through, creating this kind of cow-like spine. Your knees are going to be soft to give your body a little bit of mobility and stability here. Move from this movement, palms face up, stretch up towards the ceiling and find a little bit of a back bend here. So these are our 2 movements. We're going to be snapping from one to another in that controlled, fluid manner like we were doing yesterday with our functional lines. So on your exhale, bringing everything forward. Inhale, reaching up and back. Stretching through your arms, your armpits. 5 more of these. You really notice the stretch through your core after the contraction. 2 more. relax. Shaking your shoulders out, bring your arms to each side. Take your right hand, rotate your thumb up and then around towards the back. Allow your whole arm to rotate with that thumb. As you do that, take your left thumb and rotate your left thumb down and forward and all the way around just as much as you can get it. Now notice when you're moving your arms that your shoulders move often also. We tend to forget that our arms are attached to our back through our scapula, our shoulder blades. So when your arm moves, your shoulder blade should be moving too. So right thumb pivots up, left thumb pivots forward and down, and we're creating this turned motion in our torso, in our shoulders. And then rotate each one the opposite way, turn the opposite way. Really allow the trunk of your body to be a part of this movement. Rotating side to side. Stretch through your fingertips and your thumb. Your arm lines reach all the way through your fingertips. Making sure that you're hitting that whole line. If you have shoulder or neck pain from sitting a lot, this is definitely a wonderful movement for you. You're going to take 3 more on each side. Really exaggerating how much you can turn your arm. 2 more. 1 more. And come back to center. Shake your arms out. Doing our forward and ups again, working on the contraction of our deep front line. Bring your hands to the front of you. Contract. Inhale, lift. Contract. 10 of these. Eight. Reach your arms. 7 or 6. 3 more. 2. 1. And release. Shake your arms out. All the way down to your mat. Bring your right foot forward, left foot back into a lunge. This position should be getting fairly familiar. Now you'll notice a lunge is such an interesting position because it really hits so many of our lines that we're working on, and we can utilize it in so many different ways. But today we're really working on it through the deep front line. And if we think about our left side of that front line right now, we're lengthening through the left iliopsoas and then up through the abdomen. So take your left glute, really squeeze it up and in. You might even take your hand to your glute and feel that engagement. Pressing your hips forward and then letting them come back a little bit. And so glute squeezes as you press forward and releases as you press back. Just working on this one little section here. Continuing this little flow. 3 more. Last one. And sink down into this. Glutes still engaged, hands to your lower back. Start to think about the tube that you created when we were in tabletop. With every exhale, squeezing everything longer and in. Notice that your spine extends. That's called axial extension, when your spine lengthens up and your vertebrae kind of separate from each other a little bit more. And then use that breath. Start to find a little bit of a back bend here. Just looking for a back bend that you can maybe feel up towards your rib cage. Your chin stays tucked. A tube breath, ever so important here. Three more breaths here. Last one. coming back up into center. And starting to lift your arms up. We're going to add some arms into this. Reach up, open your arms just like when we were standing. On your exhale, sink backwards into your back leg just a little bit and contract your arms forward. Up, open, exhale, contract down. Good. Open, contract. 5 more of those with breath. 4, 3, 2. Last one. And come up and out, switch legs. Left leg comes forward, right leg back. Starting just with your hands down, hands on your hips. Engage through your right glute. And starting to find those little dips forward and back. It's just a little more active stretching, and when you dip forward, you're really not dipping all the way forward as far as you could go because that's not stable. We want to keep our ability to have some muscular contraction here so that we can get out easily. That's a huge part of mobility, right? If you're so mobile that you can get into something but you can't get out, what does it really count for? And I know that sounds kind of funny, but we really see that a lot in some hyper-flexible students that are over-flexible. So all of that flexibility is there, but then getting out of that flexibility, there's no musculature to do it. And again, that's not mobile, that's not mobility. All right, staying down and in this time, one hand to your back, finding the tube around your belly. And starting to lengthen up and a little bit back, really holding on to your right glute here, really squeezing and engaging that glute to press into that deep iliopsoas muscle. If you're feeling this kind of along your right oblique, inside of your right abdomen, then it's lovely. That's exactly where you should be. If you feel it more in your hip flexor, that's absolutely fine. 3 more breaths. 2. 1. Start to come out. This time adding our arms, palms face down, contracting forward, backing out of your front knee a little bit here so that your whole body really contracts back. Inhale to open. Contract. Pull forward. Good. 5 more. Last one. And come on out. Set your knee down. Come all the way down onto your belly. Don't get too comfortable here. We're coming into a cobra, but it's a different variation of cobra. And I want you to really notice here how we're doing this differently and kind of see what works for your body. This version of cobra, we lift our hips up off of the floor. So go ahead, just kind of stick your butt right up in the air. Notice that your lower core kind of has to work in order to do that. Hands are underneath your shoulders. You are breathing. Imagine that tube breath. It's going to be very easy to kind of stop breathing here in this pose, so I want you to notice that. On your inhale, lengthen through your core, lift your chest up. Feel the length right underneath your rib cage. We're kind of stopping it from coming from your legs. It has to come from your deep belly. 1 more breath. And down. Everything comes down. All right, so that's a new really fun one for you. All right, so we're doing that a couple more times. Go ahead, lift your hips up. Squeeze through your psoas muscles. Press your feet down into the floor. Find that little tube for a breath. Squeezing everything in. And then lifting up. Two more breaths. One more. And come down. And then just makes it really hard to breathe because we're really lengthening right into that diaphragmatic cavity. Right where your diaphragm is right where that pose is hitting. So it just takes a lot of extra concentration, a lot of extra work to continue the breath practice there. And if you haven't been able to do it yet, that's okay. You know, the more that we practice this particular type of pose, the more that you practice breathing in through your belly and through your diaphragm, the more easily you'll be able to sustain breath there. So last one, lift your hips up. One breath here. Take a good exhale, wrap everything in, lengthen and narrow that tube, and then lift up. Hands push down. One more. And lower down. Good. Send your arms, your hands underneath you. Windshield wiper your feet just a little bit. Feels nice to find length where you don't necessarily always find it in Cobra pose because our hips are usually down. A lot of the length comes from our iliopsoas, and we're never really fully stretching right underneath that rib cage and all of those deep muscles there. So come on up to your heels. Leave your hands right in front of you. I'm starting to come into something called a breath wave. So on this wave, we're starting in this contracted state, much like we did while we were standing. As we breathe in, you're going to start filling your belly first, lifting up your torso, placing your hands behind you, and lifting your hips up towards the ceiling. All right, so once again, starting in that contracted position. Take a good inhale and an exhale. Now on your inhale, fill up your belly. Let that fill lift you up and lift you so high that you arch up. And then your exhale lowers you back down into that contraction. This might be a longer breath than you're used to. We're really thinking about sipping air in, breathing in as slowly as possible in order to sustain your inhale through that whole movement. It's difficult to do while I'm talking. So we'll do another one. Exhale everything out. Start to find that movement with your inhale. All the way back down. Good, one more just like that. Awesome. Now this time we're actually going to stay with the hands back. If your hands don't reach all the way back to the floor, you could sit up on a block, or you could also put blocks underneath your hands just to get a little bit higher. Now this time we're going to turn this breath wave into more of a wave through our torso. So this first few breaths, as you breathe in, I want you to think about lifting up just through your belly, filling your belly. Don't worry about the rest of your torso above your belly. So take a breath in. Breathe out. Engage your glutes. Lift through your belly. Breathe into your belly. Exhale. Breathe out from your belly. So just right underneath your belly button is filling and contracting. Try again. One more like that. Now for the next ones, as you fill, think about filling your belly and then filling up underneath your rib cage. Your belly will fill first, and then your rib cage will fill second and lift second. Get nice and empty. Fill up belly, then ribs. And then ribs empty, belly empties. And when we talk about belly emptying or filling or ribs emptying or filling, think about the muscles around your belly. Allow them to expand, and then your rib cage muscles expand. On your exhale, your rib cage muscles contract, then your belly muscles contract. So that's really how we're moving breath through the body. So 2 more of those, belly then ribs. Awesome. This last set, we'll do 3. We'll be breathing belly, ribs, chest, lifting everything up in that order, and then placing it back down, chest, ribs, belly. So take a full breath in right here. Totally empty. And lift belly, ribs, chest, down, contract your chest, contract your ribs, contract your belly. Good, 2 more of those. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Sit all the way up, shake your hands out a little bit. Grab onto your block, lay all the way down on your mat, and place your block right underneath your hips. Awesome. Take your feet about as wide as your mat. And right here, we're just going to let the legs kind of move around. So maybe you move your knees a little bit side to side. Staying in this type of movement for a moment. And then come into a Supta Baddha Konasana, bringing the soles of your feet together. And same thing, just kind of move your hips around on that block. Move your legs around, your knees around. Really just releasing through that deep front line here, and you might feel it in different places in your body. And also just letting the pelvis kind of relax and release. You know, one thing that I haven't really mentioned yet is that deep front line includes your pelvic floor, which is part of the reason breathing is so important. And we'll start working on that more on our next deep front line session. But, you know, the pelvis holds the stability for our whole body. That pelvic floor is so vital and important for the rest of your body's stability and engagement. And being able to relax your pelvic floor all the way is so important. Often we just talk about strengthening it, but doing things like this, allowing the pelvic floor to really drop and relax, is really important as well. So once you feel really done with your movement here, go ahead, gently bring your legs together. Send your feet up towards the ceiling. Doing a little bit of iliopsoas and adductor muscle, the inside of your thigh muscles. Here, open your legs out into a straddle and then pull them back in with your exhale. Just doing 10 of those. Open, in, open, in. Good. 7, 6. Slow and controlled. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring your knees together. Drop your feet down to the floor again. Find those little movements, releasing what you just did. And don't be afraid to move your feet around. Notice them on the floor or coming off of the floor. Your knees might move in opposite directions or the same direction. And again, if finding Supta Baddha Konasana here helped you kind of move your pelvis and find something new, do that as well. And bringing your legs back up, doing one more set of those straddle opens. Opening for 10, 9, 8, and concentrate on the inside of your legs pulling together. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, last one. And drop your feet down. Keep your right foot bent underneath your knee. Extend your left foot out. Get a little bit of length through the left side body. Switch legs. Bring your right foot in. Lift your hips up just enough to remove your block out from underneath you. Set your block aside. Draw your knees right into your chest. I'm just taking a little twist to allow your spine to move in a different direction here today. Twisting over to the right. Turn your gaze to the left. And switch sides. Come all the way back up into center. Find your Shavasana down on your mat. Relax your body. Legs and feet are allowed to collapse out a little bit to the side. Find a position that's comfortable and stable for your arms. Now don't quite settle down into your full Shavasana yet. Reach over, grab your block from where you placed it, and place it right down on your belly over your belly button. As you start to settle down here, concentrate on lifting your block up with your inhale and allowing it to rest down with your exhale, really finding your belly breath here. This is an excellent thing to practice for any of our fascial lines, but especially for our deep front line. Breath is so vital that it be in the correct part of your body. And your belly should rise and fall, rise with your inhale and fall with your exhale. Spending at least the next few breaths here, slowly and controlled, lifting that block and lowering it. Now, I suggest keeping this for your Shavasana today, but if you'd like to settle into a different Shavasana, you can do that. And as always, take as long of a Shavasana as you would like to take. Thank you for joining me for class today. I hope you enjoy your rest day and meditation tomorrow. I will see you soon. Bring your hands to heart center, thumbs to your third eye. Namaste.